Hey guys, it's MLB here coming at you, or excuse me, that was my old channel intro. Still haven't made the transition yet. It's the Pack Leader and Man 1103 coming at you here. Another video, third video on the channel. So basically what I did is there's this NFL matchup simulator. Basically what it does is well, you put in a matchup. It has every team in NFL history from every season. You can mess with the rosters and everything, the weather, the stadium, even the stadium it's played in, and you can select all of that, and basically you simulate the game. So what I did was I did that for every National Football League team, and I'm gonna do the AFC in this video, the NFC next video, and that's why we're on the Steelers screen. So they get off to a good start at 3-1, lose to the Falcons, and then win in Cincinnati, going into the bye week at 4-2. They beat Cleveland, so they're 5-2, but then they lose in Baltimore. They beat the Panthers, but then lose 2 straight in Jacksonville, then in Denver. Beat the Chargers, lose to the Raiders. Astonishingly, they beat the Patriots by 1 point in one sim. It was 35-34, and Chris Boswell got the walk-off winning field goal. But that's how that happened. And then they lose in New Orleans and beat the Bengals. And yeah, you can see a little bit of a spoiler there. But they ended up finishing 7-9. So go to the Ravens. They lose to the Bills at home to start off the season. Not a great start. Win 2 straight to go 2-1. But then they lose 3 straight, and they're 2-4. They sort of rebound at 3-4. So keep in mind they're 3-4 by this point. And you guys already saw they ended up finishing 10-6. 3-5. They win 3 straight, so they're 6-5. They have a winning record after starting 2-4, which is astonishing. They go back to 500, losing to the Falcons, and they win out for the rest of the season until they lose to Pittsburgh. So you have the Browns here at 7-9. I do expect them to win a few games this year. Not 7. I don't know if they might have the skill for that. I mean, AFC North is going to be a little bit worse this year, so this might be their opening. But they start off 0-2, but against some pretty good teams. They beat the Jets, lose to the Raiders, win 3 straight. So by this point they're 4-3. But then they lose 3 straight, so they're 4-6. They beat the Bengals in Cincinnati, so they're 5-6. But then they lose in Houston. They beat the Panthers? ? I don't know why. So they beat the Panthers in Cleveland to go. What is that? That would be what? Okay, 0-2, 1-2, 1-3. Yeah, and then 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, 4-6, 5-6, 5-7, 6-7. So they're 6-7. They lose in Denver. They beat the Bengals again, and then they lose in Baltimore to finish 7-9. So a little surprising there to see them win 7 games. So we got Bengals at Colts for week 1. They win that, lose the next 3, beat the Dolphins, lose the next 2, beat the Buccaneers, lose the next 3, beat the Broncos at home, lose one again in Los Angeles, beat the Raiders for some reason, and then close out the season with 2 losses to Pittsburgh and Cleveland, both division rivals. So they finished 5-11. Not a great season on all fronts. Not at all. So we got the Texans down here. So they started out with a loss in New England, then a loss in Tennessee, and just when things started to look not good in Houston, they beat the Giants. What did I have wrote down here? It was 47-6, so good momentum pickup. Or sadly, that's where it ends because the Colts beat them. But fear not, because they go on a 4-game win streak to go 5-3. They lose in Denver, But then they win what? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight. Just crazy. Okay, and you guys saw the Super Bowl there, so spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts. So the Colts here obviously lost to the Bengals in week 1. Week 2, go back to 500, beating the Redskins, but then their luck runs out in Philadelphia. They beat the Texans, so they're straggling at 500. And then it sort of goes off a little bit here. They lose 2 straight to the Patriots, then Jets, respectively, to start out 2-4. So not a great start. They win 4 straight, so they're 6-4. 5 straight, 7-4. So 7-4. They lose in Jacksonville and Houston, so 7-6. But they win 4 straight to close off their season before getting eliminated in the playoffs by, surprise, surprise, Texans. Titans here. The Titans. Oh, I didn't get a good. I think it was like 7-9, like usual. Okay. So they win in Miami, then win at home against Houston. They lose in Jacksonville, and they win against the Eagles at home. So one thing I've picked up so far is that home field advantage, I think, means more in the AFC South than in any other division. They lose in Buffalo. They beat the Ravens at home. Then they beat the Chargers and Cowboys, both away games. Lose to the Patriots, Colts, and Texans. But they beat the Jets. They beat the Jags. Lose in East Rutherford to the Giants. Beat the Redskins, and then close out with a home loss to the Colts, which would be almost a dagger. Now, right here, we have the Jags losing against the Giants. They win 3 straight to start out 3-1. They're 3-2 after a loss in Kansas City, but they go 4-2 to start off the season in Dallas. They lose at home against the Texans. They win at home against the Eagles. They lose in Indy, obviously beat the Steelers at home. They get crushed by the Bills, 59-16. So, yeah, lopsided. I don't know how that happened. They beat the Colts, surprise. They lose in Tennessee, which you already saw. They beat their Skins, and then they close out the season with 2 consecutive losses. Not a good note to end on. Sorry about that, guys. It just bothers me when there's a notification. I have to clear it. Okay. So, we got the Patriots beat the Texans at home in overtime by 3 points. That was all the wider the margin got between those two teams. So that's going to be a good football game from what analytics are telling us. But they lose in Jacksonville the next game. Not that surprising. I mean, both of these teams are capable of beating the Patriots. They beat the Lions in Detroit. That's my sleeper team. It seems that every year there's usually 1 or 2 teams that beat New England that none of us would expect. I think the Lions might be one of those teams. They win, 4 straight, starting with the Lions, ending at home against the Chiefs. They lose to the Bears, beat the Bills, Packers, Titans, and Jets, and the Vikings. I forgot about them. Until losing 2 straight, first in Miami, then in Pittsburgh. So back-to-back away losses. But they beat the Bills and Jets to close off the season. Whoopsie-doozles. Oh, that reset the postseason. Here, I'll be right back, guys. Alright, I'm sorry, I had to leave for a second, guys. I had accidentally reselected a game. I did reselect the correct winner, and unfortunately that reset all of my playoff progress. Luckily, I had... Here, wait. I had a sheet of paper with all of the picks for each team on it. Well, I mean, by that I mean I had a sheet of picks for like each team and then the postseason. So I basically have 33 sheets of paper all stapled together more or less here. So, uh, but yeah, I'm back, guys. So we're now in the Dolphins' schedule. They lose to the Titans. They actually have a winning record after week 3. Quickly ripped out of their arms. You know, that's why I don't like the Dolphins that much. Like, it says a lot about them giving their fans the taste of success, and then right as they reach for it, are immediately ripping it out of their grasp. I mean, that's their peripheral, I guess. Anyways, I'm back. They lose to the Patriots and Bengals, beat the Bears, but then again another two straight losing 2-game losing streak. Those kill teams. You can't do that in the NFL, and if that's true to real life, that's gonna be rough. They beat the Jets. They beat the Packers. They lose to the Colts. Don't know how that happens. Of course, the Colts weren't actually that bad. I forget exactly how the Packers did. They're like 9-7. I just took a little glance at their sheet here. They beat the Bills. They beat the Patriots. Beat the Vikings. Beat the Jags and beat the Bills, but just can't squeak into the playoffs at 9-7. Just a few spots behind the actual succeed Steelers. Bills, they start off the season pretty strong, 2-0. They beat the Ravens and Chargers, two teams expected to do better this year. So, I mean, win for them, literally. Then they lose 2 straight against the Vikes and Packers. They beat the Titans, lose to the Texans, and the Colts right afterwards. So, by this point, they're starting to fall off a little bit, and then they lose to the Patriots, Bears, and Jets. So, a 5-game losing streak puts them at 3-7. You can't do that in the NFL. Even when, like, 2 of those, and you're 8-8, you at least try to make the playoffs. They beat the Jags. They lose in Miami. Not an easy place to win. They beat the Jets at home. They lose to the Lions at home. They then lose to the Patriots, obviously, and then beat the Dolphins to close out the season at home on a good note. That said, not much else good on the season. They start out 6-10. They lose. I mean, these streaks, man. If that happens in real life, there's no way. There's no way they're gonna get anywhere. Like, I say, maybe beat the Colts, the Bears, and the Jets, and you're 9-7 in contention for a playoff spot. You know, that's how the cookie crumbled for them, I guess. Luckily, they're better off than their blood brothers, the Jets here, who are 4-12. They start the season on a 4-game losing streak, win 3 straight. So right as they're looking like they could make a comeback this season, they lose 2 straight, and they're 3-6. They beat the Bills, so they're 4-6, but they lose That's 5-6 straight games to close out the season. Again, you can't do that as a professional team. At least win a couple games out of those. Like, win 3 games and you're 7-9. You know, you're respectable. But I mean, they just played like a dumpster fire, I guess, in those Sims. Not a lot of their losses were close. The ones they did win, every game they won came within 3 points. So to give you an idea of how bad they were in Sim. Excuse me. The Raiders, 10-6. Oh, man. So, they they start out 4-2. They lose 2 straight. So they're 4-4. 6-4 by the time week 11 hits. After week 12, they're 6-5. So they're hovering just above 500. Then they win 2 straight when it matters most. So that would put them at what? They're 4-2, 4-4, 6-4, 6-5, 7-5, 8-5. They lose in Cincinnati, but I do believe they win the final two games. So finished 10-6, not bad at all. Hope you saw that. Okay, it doesn't matter. So the Broncos. This was a really, really interesting one. So they finished 9-7 down here, as you see. Every game at home, they won, except for one select game, and that was in Kansas City. Oh, no, wait. That's the only away game they won. They won every home game, but lost nearly every away game except one in Kansas City. That is the weirdest way I've ever seen any team get a winning record in football. Like, they're beating teams like the Seahawks, Raiders, the Chiefs twice, and then they're losing in New York to the Jets and in Cincinnati to the Bengals. You know, it's baffling. Like, but what that tells me is this is one of those teams that's mediocre, but it has an outstanding fan base. Basically meaning that it's hard to explain. It's very tough to win in that stadium, but when they're away and everyone's against them, it's more or less a crapshoot as to who's gonna win. So, I mean, you gotta take that how you will, but the home team won nearly every one of their games. Dang it! I'll be right back, guys. But yeah, as I was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted, uh, the home team won nearly every game except that one game against the Kansas City Chiefs. In Kansas City, the Broncos won. So that gives you an idea of what home field advantage means to them, and also how teams handle it. So that's pretty cool, but they, unfortunately, for any Broncos fans out there, did not make the playoffs. They fell just shy to the Steelers, so that's unfortunate for them. The Chargers and Chiefs did not have good seasons. Again, a lot of home games, or a lot of home teams winning. That's a pattern I'm seeing in this division. Start out, that's 2 wins up until week 7. That's 2-5, 3-5. So, I mean, it's meh. It's not insurmountable, but they'd have to gun it from here. They fall to 3-6, win 2 straight. So they're 5-6. They're 1 game down. They go back 2 games down to 5-7 after a loss in Pittsburgh. They win one over the Bengals, but then lose 3 straight. These losing streaks kill teams, especially in a sport with such short seasons. You know, only 16 games. Think if you go on a 5-game win streak, that's over a quarter of your season fucked. So you have to capitalize. Think say they win those 3 games, they're 9-7, probably in contention for the playoffs. So, I mean, that would be totally on them. And again, a lot of those games were close. They could have gone either way. And finally, for the AFC, and for this episode, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. So, man, they don't start good at all. They lose in Los Angeles, then lose in Pittsburgh. They beat the 49ers, lose to the Broncos, beat the Chiefs, beat the Jags, lose to the Patriots, beat the Bengals, lose at home to the Broncos, beat the Browns in Cleveland, beat the Cardinals at home. Unfortunately, that's where the positives end, is they only win 1 game the entirety of the remainder of the season. After week 10, they go 1 and, let's do some math here. Okay, 3, 5. They go 1-5 on the remainder of the season. So you think they win in Oakland and Seattle, and beat Baltimore. That's 9-7. They're in the playoff hunt again. But that's going to be it for this one. Again, home field advantage plays a role in these simulations, definitely. The website is called WhatifSports. I'll have a link in the description. It's a pretty cool website if any of you want to check it out. You can mess around. You can, like, say if you select the Steelers, you can select this past year's Steelers, or you could do the 2004 Steeler team that went 15-1. You know, you could do pretty much anything actually with it. It's pretty cool, and I recommend it. That said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you did like this video, please leave a like. And remember, dragons of scale always prevail. I will see you all next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.